Hello everyone. So for today's class, we'll start with the maxillofacial implants, which is a topic in Unit 5. So Unit 5 is all about implants and recent advances in regenerative medicine and topics like that. So this comes under tissue regeneration and surgery. So we'll move on to the. So first thing is about introduction. So mainly when we talk about this maxillofacial implants and all other implants in your unit 5, mainly the polymers are used for soft tissue applications because they can be tailor made, so it can be customized and according to the needs of the patient it can be modified. So that's why polymers are widely used. And in addition, polymers can be made into various forms such as liquid, foam, film, rod, fabric and suture materials. So whatever the application is, we can customize the polymer into that particular shape. So that's why polymers are widely used applications. And some of the polymers like silicon, dacron, teflon, polyurethanes, polyacrylate, polyethylene, nylon are like widely used for soft tissue applications because they have biocompatibility. So biocompatibility is like the major criteria for implants, right? So that's why we are going for all these polymers for soft tissue applications. So generally the implants in soft tissues can be grouped into 5 categories. So we have 5 categories based on the function. First one is shunt for fluid transport in the body. So when we say shunt, you know about electrical circuits, you would have read it, right? So in electric circuit you have a serial resistance and shunt resistance. So when we say shunt, it's like a parallel connection, right? So that is what we mean by shunt for fluid transport in the body. So what we do is, like in case of cardiovascular implants, we place a shunt artery, like an artery will be placed in parallel to the natural blood vessel. So it acts as a shunt for transport of the fluids inside the body. Second one is percutaneous devices which pass from outside through the epidermis into the body. So when we say percutaneous, it's connecting the outside device inside the body. So some of the examples include when we have some surgery in the esophageal tube. So some tubes will be inserted inside the throat region when the person is having difficulty in swallowing the food. So people who are admitted in ICU conditions, the food or the liquids will be directly transmitted through the esophagus where the pipes will be passing through the throat. So such devices are the percutaneous devices. Second thing is space fillers for some defects. So when we say space fillers, these are just to fill the space. So this can be any soft tissue or anything which can be used as a filler. So that's one thing. So mainly these are for cosmetic procedures. And fourth one is load carriers or scaffolds for tissue growth including sutures and wound dressings. We have already discussed a lot about this in your previous units, right? So the switches which are bioresorbable and it should degrade and it should not cause any reactions or allergy. So those things are the fourth category. And the last category is electrodes for neuromuscular stimulation. So when we talk about intramuscular electrodes, so you guys would have studied all those things in your DT and stuff, right? So when you take the EMG signal, you have an external electrode and you have an internal electrode. So in case of internal electrode, a needle electrode will be placed inside the muscle, right? So such things will be made of some biomaterials because we can't just take any metal and keep it inside the muscle because the muscle might get damaged. So that needle has to be biocompatible and that metal has to be non-toxic. So these are the things which we consider for the implants in the soft tissues. So moving on to our main topic, which is maxillofacial implants. So what is maxillofacial implant? Mainly these are the things which is done using during the maxillofacial surgery, because in case of plastic surgeons, uh, recently this number has quite increased because due to the increased number of procedures to correct genetic, traumatic and cosmetic deformities, so there is an increased expectation of positive results by patients. So that's why plastic surgeons go for this maxillofacial implants. Sometimes people will be born with defects where the bones will be aligned improperly, then the surgeons will correct the alignment and they will make the face symmetric, and also all those things are done by using maxillofacial implants. So some of the materials which are used for these implants are polyvinyl chloride and acetate, PMMA, silicone, Dacron, Teflon, and polyurethane. So these are the materials which are mainly used for maxillofacial implants. And for soft tissues like gum and chin, which is in the near the mouth area, we use materials such as PMMA or silicone rubber. And wide variety of tissues are harvested and used to augment, recontour, and replace the defective structures formed in the face. So when we say three different functions, one is augmentation. Augmentation is we are improving the existing functionality. Recontour is reshaping the face. So like I said, when there is a facial asymmetry, one side of the face will be aligned improperly, so they will be recontouring, which means they are aligning the curvature of the face. And then third application is replace. So when we say replace, they will replace some part of the bone, they will cut some part of the cheekbones, they will cut some part of the chin bone, and all those things will be cut and that will be replaced with a biomaterial. So these are the three main things done in the maxillofacial implants. And these include cartilage autograft, cartilage homograft, and bone graft. So these are the three things that are done in the maxillofacial implants. When we say cartilage autograft, it is taken from the same person. So the cartilage tissue will be taken from the same person's body. Second thing is cartilage homograft. Homograft means within the same species. And the last one is bone graft. So from the bone tissues will be taken, and that bone cells and tissues will be cultured, and when it is grown into a tissue like form, it will be placed as an implant. So this is the skull's anterior view, and you can see the different bone structures in the skull. So this is just for your reference from your textbook. So if any of this bone or any of this structure is deformed, then the person has to undergo a maxillofacial surgery. It's not like a mandatory thing, but people do undergo this surgery because when the face is improperly aligned, it makes their face look different from others. So that's why this kind of surgery is performed, so that the normal symmetry is maintained. And then the types of maxillofacial implants. So what is the thing about the types of maxillofacial implants is that there are two types. One is extraoral, another one is intraoral. So the second type, which is the intraoral type, is defined as the art and science of anatomic, functional, and cosmetic reconstruction by means of artificial substitutes in the maxilla, mandible, and face. So intraoral means it is inside the oral cavity. Extraoral means it's outside the oral cavity. So these are the two different types. So when we talk about extraoral implant, it requires color and texture because we are placing it outside the oral cavity. So the color and texture of the skin and the surface has to be maintained. Second thing is it should be mechanically and chemically stable. It should not creep, or it should not change color, or it should not irritate the skin. When we say mechanically stable, you all know the force generated by our teeth, right? So the bite force of teeth is generally very high. So when we chew on very hot substances, the teeth will be able to crack that material, right? So when you are doing surgery in the oral cavity, when you are replacing that bone structure, that bone has to maintain the mechanical property also. So that implant which we placing, that should be able to bear the force which we are giving during chewing and all those activities. So that should be there. And chemically stable. Chemically stable is as usual, it should not react with the blood and all the saliva and all those things. It should not get reacted with all those things, and it should not cause any reaction. Next thing is it should be easily fabricated. It should be very easy to fabricate. You can't take more time in create a maxillofacial implant for a person, right? So nowadays people use 3D printing, and it has become a lot easier with 3D printing. But in previous days, before the 3D printing era, people used to craft and prepare the implants, and it was really difficult at the time. Nowadays it's a bit easier with all those additive manufacturing techniques. And some of the examples of polymers which are used are polyvinyl chloride and acetate, copolymers, PMMA, silicone, and polyurethane rubbers. So moving on to the cartilage autografts. So these are like the most widely used implants in the face. Major sources of cartilage autograft. So when we are going to take a cartilage from the body, we generally take it from nasal region, lobe of the ear, and the rib region. So these are the three regions for the cartilage is taken for the grafting purpose. So the lower lateral cartilage, which is often removed in nasal tip surgery, is often used to fill in defect in another part of the nose. So generally in plastic surgery, people go for nose correction, right? So in that stage, they take the tip of the nose and then use it to replace or fill some part of the nose during the surgery. So they don't just throw the tissue or the bone away, they use it for correcting the other part of the body. So that's one thing. Another one is when there is an asymmetry, the lateral cartilage can be removed from one side of the nostril and inserted into the other. So like I said, when the face is asymmetric, they do remove one side of the nose and insert it on the other side. And then there is something called fresh cartilage autografts, which is a material of choice for facial reconstruction in the area of the nose. And the last thing is costal cartilage, which is derived from the 6th and 7th rib, which is used to reconstruct malar and mandibular defects and also for reconstruction of the auricular defects. So all these things we had seen in our unit 4, right? We have seen about artificial ear, artificial eyes, artificial nose, all those things are there. So whatever the part which is taken during surgery, it will be used as a graft in another part of the body. So they don't just throw the tissue away, because since it's an autograft, each and every cell and tissue counts, because it's totally compatible with the body, doesn't cause any rejection. So generally autografts are like given a very high importance during this maxillofacial implants. And other implant materials, what are the other implant materials? One is collagen, which is used in an injectable form. So generally the injectable form of collagen is Zydam 1, Zydam 2, Zyplast. All these things are like the commercial name for collagen, which is in injectable form, which is generally used for this cosmetic surgery to remove depressions, wrinkles and marks of acne, all those things. And then there is something called siloxane, which is in injectable form, which polymerizes in situ, has been partially successful in correcting the facial deformities. So when you go for this cosmetic surgery, they generally inject some polymeric materials to make some part look chubbier, some part look thinner, and all those things. They adjust the total face according to the requirement. So they inject all those materials like collagen and siloxane. And silastic is another material which is used to increase the chin and cheek areas. It is generally available as a gel filled implant for augmentation of soft areas, and it's also available in a rubber form. There is something called chin augmentation, because if somebody is having a flat chin and they want to make it look a bit narrow or a bit wide, then they use this elastic material. And then this can extend the projection up to 4 to 14 mm. And for other areas of face also it's available, like cheek area, below the cheek area and forehead area. Silastic is widely used. And there is another thing called porous Teflon with carbon fiber, which is mainly used for augmentation of alveolar ridge, cheek, chin, forehead, mandible, middle ear, orbital floor and temples, which is almost like all the main prominent areas of the face. And then there is the use of polyethylene for correction of frontal, orbital rim and external ear defects. When we say orbital rim, which is the eye socket, so that's what the eye orbit they say. So that area they can make it, because somebody will have a very big eyes, and that eye socket will make it big, make it look more bigger. So more like so sometimes they will inject some polymeric material in the eyelids to make the eye look small, and they will inject all these materials in the eye socket to make the eye socket flat and not like very deep inside the face. All those things people do for plastic surgery and all these cosmetic surgeries. And there is something called acrylic cement, which is used to fit the implant into the recessed space. So mainly it is used in chin and forehead augmentation. And there are some materials which are available as mesh materials like Vicryl, Supramide and Mercilin. These are like the commercial name. If you look at the main chemical component of it, it's polyglycolic acid, polylactic acid copolymer, and Supramide is polyamide, and Mercilin is polyethylene terephthalate. So these are like the main chemical composition of these commercially available products. And these mesh products which are mainly used for chin augmentation, mandible angle, forehead and jawline recontouring. So to adjust the asymmetry in the face, they use this mesh products, which is just like a netted structure placed inside the face to correct the curvature. And this is like the table which shows the summary of all these implant materials used in maxillofacial surgery. So for facial contour correction materials, they are listed here, which include silicone, rubber, Teflon, and other polymers like PMMA, PET, Dacron, Proplast, all those things. And there is a mandibular reconstruction material which includes zirconium, tantalum, stainless steel mesh, titanium mesh, and then silicone rubber blocks, Teflon block, polyurethane polyester, and then some advantages and disadvantage of these materials. And then there is also PMMA bond cement. All these things are used for mandibular reconstruction. And for temporomandibular joint reconstruction, the materials are given here, and for what purposes they use this, like for chronic hypomobility, arthritis and deformities, all those things they go for temporomandibular joint reconstruction. And the materials are silicone, rubber, acrylic, Teflon and stainless steel, cobalt, chromium alloy. All these things are used for this application. And there are also Vitalium, Silastic, Proplast, titanium mesh, all these things are used. You can refer all this in your textbooks 1 and 3. So yeah, with this I'll stop this lecture.